Sometime back, I had a man want me to do an appraisal for him on a large apartment complex. Well, I did it, and turns out that I waited for a month and then another month to give him a payment, but never did. Now, he got his mortgage and a little extra money put in his pocket, but he never paid me. So finally, I called him. I said, "You gonna pay me for that appraisal?" He said, "Well, if I pay you, how am I gonna pay my bills?" Oh, what reasoning. I thought, I don't think I've ever looked at it that way. So, was I angry? Did I get mad? Yes. But I had a learning lesson out of it. I was fuming one morning in prayer, and I said, "Lord, that man needs to pay me." And I was complaining to the Lord. And the Lord said, "I want you to forgive him." I said, $1,500, Lord, that's a lot of money. And he said, "Yes, and I want you to forgive him." And I said, "Oh, man." And I wrestled with that and wrestled with that. And finally, I said, "All right, Lord, I forgive him." Well, as you would know it, the Lord said, "All right, now I want you to sit down and write him a letter and tell him he's forgiven." I said, "Lord," I said, "I've already said I forgive him." He said, "I know, but I want you to write him a letter." So reluctantly, I sat down and write a letter and sent it to him. Well, it wasn't much long after that, the next couple of days, and the Lord said, by the time I figured the letter got there, the Lord said, "Now I want you to call him and tell him you forgive him." I said, "Lord, I got babies to buy milk for." What if he decided he wanted to pay me, and there I have already forgiven the debt? And he said, "Call him and tell him he's forgiven." So I did. Well, the process of time marches on, and he winds up in jail for non-payment of child support for a goodly period of time. So I'm thinking, well, just recompense. But the Lord sent this man back to me recently, and he wanted me to do another appraisal. What I had learned out of all of that was to forgive. I didn't like it. I knew I needed to do it because the Lord told me, and it's scriptural. He said, "Forgive your debtors." In fact, even unto 7 times. So I'm going, all right. So I went and did the appraisal. Well, this time, the appraisal prices had gone up. And so I charged him. He said, "Man, that much?" And I thought, "What do you think I was going to do? I was going to patty cake that thing? Just, you going to pay me?" He said, "Yeah." He wrote me out a check. Well, this time he had some money. Well, he was a little bit of a friend back before, and then I got mad at him, and then I forgave him. But in the process of all this, something happened to me. I learned how to forgive people instantly. I do not harbor unforgiveness when I go to bed at night. I don't let it get trapped in my brain and rent space. I just don't. And you need to learn that. Jesus did. Now, how is it that Jesus would teach something like that? Well, at the cross, he said, "Lord, forgive them, for they know not what they do." He forgave the ones who crucified him and the whole nation who sentenced him to death. Do you know, forgiveness is a way of life. It'll keep you alive, and it'll keep your heart clear and your mind pure, and you'll be able to do things you've never been able to do before. And in addition to that, you might just be able to keep a friend who offended you. Did you know that? Much less talking about somebody else that you don't even know. So when I walk down the street, I can look somebody in the eye, because you know why? I have forgiven them if they've wronged me. So if you want to be good and clean and happy all the time, take me, for example. I'm happy all the time. I'm full of joy. Why? Because I know how to forgive instantly. And I mean, I do it right now. If somebody wants to borrow money, I lend him money, thinking in my mind, and when he said, "I'll pay you back," nope, not happening. Forgive them instantly, and I never look for that money back. If they pay me, great. If they don't, that's great too, because I've already forgiven them. God bless you guys, and go in peace. Love you. Bye.